-23, but we're going north, so it's going to be a little bit colder than that. The rosin from the pine tree, this stuff right here, burns hot, it burns long. It's like a natural candle, so I always try to grab a little bit of that stuff. The GoPro stopped working. This is 5 minutes in. I even got like it's called the SanDisk Extreme card for it, and it's supposed to like be extreme cold weather and this and that. 5 minutes, done. Same thing with all my any adventures, anything that I've done that's been like below a -50 wind chill, they never work.
My phone died soon thereafter as well. In order to document, I had to wait a week or so until the weather warmed up to 5 degrees Fahrenheit.
These are ice screws. Supposed to put this through here like this. Put it in there, put it into the ice, and then screw them down. They don't work that well. It was a good thought though. Instead of trying to stake into really hard ground, I built some of these homemade snow anchors. So basically I just took an old tent, cut it up, sewed it into bags, and then put a cinch around the top. We bury them in the ground, throw them in there, and then just cover them right back up. And that snow actually will compact and harden and keep it really taut. My goal is to figure out how do I get the most comfort out of the least amount of weight. And so I have this Big Agnes air chamber, but notice that the welds are staggered, okay? If you were to look at it sideways, you'll notice that the pad has nothing that goes all the way through down to the other side of the ground. And what that does is that increases the insulation, the R value of the pad, because you're not getting that like cold pocket from underneath, just pushing right up through the bottom. Then after that, I put on top of it a foam pad. I've got a ridge rest here, just your classic ridge rest. When you lay on top of a foam pad, it doesn't conduct out. If your body ends here, it's going to stay warm until right there. Whereas if you put the air chamber pad on top, your body ends here, all that cold air that's in here is flushing back into your body. Because of the low transferability of foam, it just doesn't conduct very far. So it seems to stay a lot warmer, a lot closer to your body and preserve that heat. Then the next thing I do is inside of the bag, I actually put another thin kind of foam pad like a ridge rest in here as well. So this way you're just getting a lot of comfort, but you're also getting that insulating. This is a -20 degree Big Agnes dry down bag. Seems to work pretty well, but not down to -20 obviously. So this one works pretty well about down to -5. And inside of that I wear my onesie with a puffer and then a fleece gaiter around my neck to keep the air in. Another suggestion that I would make with a sleep system is to buy your bag long wide. It's called the long wide version. And I understand that in really cold weather, you don't want that dead space, right? You don't want extra space in your bag. But what I found out is that when I buy or I'm using a regular bag, it's really limited in space. So let's say I want to put on 3 jackets at night to stay warm. I can't, otherwise it's just like squished in there. Another advantage of having a long wide version of the bag is you can take out your liners from your boots and your gloves and you can put them down at the bottom of the bag. And what it does is it creates an extra layer of insulation at the foot box, but it's also keeping your gear warm for the next morning. A question that a lot of people ask is, should I get a 4-season tent or can I use my 3-season tent when it's super cold out? And my response to that would be, it kind of depends on the temperature. Like if it's -5 or above, I usually use a 3-season tent only because it's much lighter and I know that my bag, along with like a puffer in it, is going to keep me warm even in a 3-season tent. But I will say this, if it gets down to like -20, it's a really good idea to have a 4-season tent. A 4-season tent makes a huge difference in the air temperature on the inside of the tent after you warm it up. I'll give you an example. Once I was up on the Superior hiking trail and I pitched the tent on a rock ledge. Outside the air temperature was -23.
And after a while I checked the thermometer inside the tent and it read 5 degrees Fahrenheit.
I'd say that's a pretty good trade-off for an extra pound or two. This is a single wall old Marmot, a great little tent. But the one thing I don't like about this tent is that it has no vestibule. So check it out. Anytime I come in and out of the tent, I'm always hauling in snow. And so what do? I have to put my pack on the inside of this tent. And thank goodness this is a 2-person tent, so there's plenty of room. But if I was sharing it with someone, where do you keep your gear? Where do you keep your pack, right? When it's really cold, I like to have a liner in my boot, something where it's impermeable on the outside, preferably a liner with a built-in reflector in it. If you don't know what I mean by that, they'll put some kind of like a mylar material in the middle of the liner or sometimes on the inside that reflects the heat back to your foot. This is something that my brother taught me not too long ago, and I find it very useful. These things right here, I never knew about them until recently. I should have, because I dive. They're basically neoprene diving socks. They're for putting on your feet and then you put your fins over them so you don't get blisters on your toes. It allows you to breathe, like your foot still breathes through here, but it keeps your toes super warm. Under the liner at the bottom of the boot, I have one of these inserts that I put in there. I cut them out myself. What they are is, if you've ever been to like a weight room at the gym, they're floor tiles, but they're made out of foam. I took one of those and I cut out the shape of the boot, put it in the boot, and now I've got a really thick layer of insulation on the under my foot. I tried those little square ones that you connect together for like little kids' play areas. Garbage, don't even bother with them. They actually mush down after a couple of hours and you get basically no insulating value. So I have just like a cotton poly blend sock. Now I know that people, they swear by wool socks. Wool is great, like I'm not gonna argue with you there. I just can't stand the feeling of it. Like it makes my feet so wet and clammy. So that's why I prefer to have that little bit of absorbing power in that sock. I always carry another pair of dry socks with me that I wear at night in the tent. So I learned this from Lonnie Dupree reading his book Alone at the Top of the World. He actually uses a vapor barrier between his sock and his boot liner. He doesn't want that moisture from his foot to transfer into his liner because it's going to decrease the insulation value. At least in really cold weather, I always wear a onesie. This one is a USIA diving suit. So in other words, you'd wear something like this under a dry suit when you're cold weather diving. It distributes the heat from top to bottom or bottom to top more evenly. Footwear, I always put on some kind of a light slipper. I mean, some people, they like to wear wool socks to bed, which is great too. I love wool socks to bed. The only problem is if you've got to get up and go to the bathroom at night, I like to have on a slipper that has some sort of a bottom that actually will repel snow a little bit. This is the one that everybody swears by. This is the OR, Outdoor Research Ultimate. Outdoor Research Ultimate's a great mitt. Don't get me wrong, like I've used them for years. And in fact, this pair is probably going on like 10 years now. Does the job for most environments, but I will say this, once you get down to below -20, the Ultimate, it's no go. Anything down to that point, it's fantastic, but once you get there, it just doesn't perform anymore. I've had people get really upset with me for saying that, but the truth is, that's what happens. I mean, I've lived it. I've lived it many times, so get them if you're above -20. This is the end all right here. Take a look at the difference between these here. That is going to keep you warm in anything. This company, they make handwear that is for like the oil field workers. Take a look at these liners. They're beefy. People, they seem to sometimes think that the only answer or the only option has to be sold at REI or some other kind of, outdoor co-op. But you've got to remember, there's an entire country that does everything outside when it's -20 out. I mean, they have to go to work in -20. They have to go play in -20. They have to do their sports, whatever it is. So they've created products that work for them in that weather environment. I'll give you another example. This is a company, it's called Ice Armor. And basically, all Ice Armor does is they make gear for ice fishing. Ice Armor makes these mitts to actually be able to reach into the hole and grab the fish out while you're trying to pull it up in frigid weather. So Ice Armor, they're completely waterproof. I've had this pair for about 3 years now. Basically nil wear on the thumb and on the handle here. Excellent piece of equipment. About 60 bucks, whereas the Ultimates, the OR Ultimates, running you probably about 200. These are good down to about -20. These are good down to about -20, 1/3 the price. For Facewear, I use this right here. It's basically what it is it's just a full balaclava. It's made of fleece, so super lightweight, but fleece is really breathable, so I can actually breathe through here. Will it ice up when it gets really cold? A little bit, but a lot of it'll kind of seep out the holes here, and it'll just start to like frost up the side, which you probably saw in the video that I started, but it well, the camera died. If it's really cold, I pull out this bad boy right here. This is a 1978 Eddie Bauer face mask. And this is when Eddie Bauer was actually kind of like the go-to for expedition. Check that out. It scares the heck out of everybody that meets me, but this thing is awesome. It's got a little hole right here. It's kind of got, like, if I tilt sideways, you can see it's got an elephant snout. So it's gonna let the air up and through there and out the bottom. And of course it'll grow an icicle here where it comes in and out the air. But it is warm. I mean, this is all down filled. The back is elastic. So I love this thing. Like I said though, you meet somebody on the trail with this on, they're running the other way. It's over. You know how they say start cold, right? In other words, when you get out of your car and you're at your trailhead, they say you should feel cold at first because when you start hiking, you're gonna start generating heat and then you're gonna get warm. So I wear layers of synthetics, and ones that have a full zipper or at least like half zip so I can unzip it and let some of that heat out. The reason why I don't wear a down puffer on the trail is that they snag on everything and then they rip and then the feathers come out all over the place. I do a lot of backcountry hiking. If you're on a really open, clear trail, then it's probably not an issue. Or if you're hiking across tundra where there aren't trees, probably not an issue. When I get to camp, that's when I take out the down, because after I've cooled down a little bit and I'm not generating all that moisture out of my body, I can take out the down, and down packs a lot of warmth for its weight. So I just take out the jacket, fluff it up a little bit, throw that on, and then I'm really warm at camp. If you can put the down on the outside of whatever you're wearing, like let's say you have a synthetic jacket like this, put the down on the outside of the jacket and put the synthetic on the inside so the down can puff up and it's going to create a little bit more insulation for you. One of the biggest disagreements that I have with a claim that people make is they say before you go to bed when it's really cold, drink a lot of hot fluids because that's going to warm your body up. To me, it's the worst idea in the world, and I'll tell you why. Two things are going to happen. I'm going to have to get up in the middle of the night to go pee, and then I'm going to freeze my tail off. It's the last thing you want to do when it's super cold out. And the second thing is your body is going to actually take a lot of energy to keep that liquid heated. Your body, when it's really cold, will want to discharge or expel all the unnecessary liquid that's in it, and you'll find that you have to go pee twice as badly, twice as many times. The better thing to do is just eat something high caloric, like a Snickers bar, something like that, something dry. Okay, purists are going to be really upset with me for even suggesting this because they like to use the flint and the steel, but I'm sorry, when it's negative 25 out and I'm trying to get a fire started with either thin gloves or no gloves at all, I'm not messing with a flint and steel, just trust me on that. So this is what I do. I do carry a lighter, but I rarely use it. This is how I get my fire started. So keep that fuel canister close to you or somewhere where it's wrapped up and insulated in something. It's too cold. I didn't keep it warm enough. It's too cold, it won't work. Let's see if this one works. They just, oh, there we go. So here's what wow, I should have followed my own advice. Turn your jet engine on and then just throw your ignitable over that. And actually you can put this, aim it right into the fire and get your fire started with this thing. It's just like a jet engine shooting right at your sticks. It'll heat them up and ignite them. Remember, I've been doing this for about 30 years and I'm still learning stuff each year. I mean, I've been a top gear reviewer for the past 10 years or so. I'm a science teacher, I read up on stuff all the time, and yet I still find every year I'm figuring out new things that work better than the year before. Is there a better way of doing things? Probably. Is there better equipment out there that I haven't tried? Yeah, I'm sure there is. In any case, if you enjoyed the video, I'm glad. If you learned a few things, that's great. If you disagreed with things on the video, that's okay too. I'm here to help. I've watched a lot of videos online where people talk about camping in extreme conditions, and some of the advice that's out there on the internet is actually, quite frankly, dangerous. It's going to get people in trouble because it doesn't work, and I know because I've made some of those mistakes before. So in Minnesota, you just by nature have a few opportunities to be involved with really cold weather. All right guys, take care. I'll see you on the trail. Maybe not if it's too cold.